Hey, welcome back. I have another video where I'm going to be unboxing a Rogal Dorn battle tank for the Imperial Guard, the Astra Militarum, whatever you call them at this point. And this is a oversized Leman Russ, basically. It's covered in guns. It's quite large. You can see from the crew that it's quite big. And yeah, I was really excited to get this one. The price, like everything, it's high, and I don't think I could see myself buying 2 or 3 of these things, but I had to have one. I mean, I've had so many tanks over the years that, it's one more tank, why not, is sort of how I felt, and it's something different. I mean, I have, it's got to be close to 20 Leman Russ at this point, and 13 Chimeras, and whatever else I have. If I can buy those tanks over and over again, I could definitely justify getting something completely new at least once. So, I'm going to get this up to an angle where it's not completely and utterly washed out from the glare. Kind of right there. As you can see, this is a pretty big tank. It's got people all over it that are quite small. It's something between the size of a Leman Russ and I would say a Malcador. And it's just a really cool looking vehicle. I like it a lot. It's got that really like World War I, World War II-ish, more World War II era kind of tank design, but it's also covered in all kinds of nonsense and weapons everywhere, like you would expect from the Imperial Guard and Warhammer 40k in general. I really like the crew. I mean, just in general, they're very nice looking. I like this tank crew helmet he's wearing. And I do like, this guy kind of just looks like he's just a dude that's kind of hopped up on the back, even though he's very clearly a tank crewer. I just don't know why he has a different helmet. Hopefully there's a whole bunch of these, because I like those a lot. And yeah, anyways, nice box. The back, just some more pictures. There's 2 variants. You do get this one. This is the gun you want to build, the Oppressor Cannon, I think it's called. And then there's like this, I don't know, twin battle cannon. I mean, it looks really cool, but it's a terrible weapon in terms of rules. It just doesn't make sense. It's like, it's not 2 battle cannons. It's much less than 2 battle cannons. A battle cannon has a minimum 4 shots. This, with 2 battle cannons, has a minimum 2 shots. So the luck kind of, or the lack of, consistent rolling that you would get with this, the luck base for the attacks, kind of makes it not worth taking, which is a shame. I normally would say, build what looks cooler, and I do think that kind of looks cooler. But, at the price you're paying for these models, as cool as that looks, if it's going to just like, every game that you take it out, maybe have 2 or 3 turns where, your luck is terrible and you're rolling 2 and 3 and 4 hits total. You're better off just having 2 Leman Russ for slightly more and getting a minimum of 8 shots between the 2 tanks. Plus that's 2 tanks. So, it's kind of there. I can see why they did it, but it just doesn't feel good. And hopefully a later FAQ will, or RATA, whatever, will update that and make it more viable. Anyways, yeah, lots of cool details you can see. It's got your sponsons. They're a little nicer sponsons than what we're used to with Leman Russ. Mini Demolisher type cannon that goes there, or you can get this mini Punisher over here. You can put like stubbers or melta-guns at the front. In general, it's a really cool tank. Yeah, there's nothing really to complain about in terms of design except for one thing, which I'll mention at some point, but I mean, at this point, I think everybody's heard about it. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to complain too much about that missing piece, that not missing piece, that design choice, but, it is something worth noting. I'll get to that, though. So, it's your standard new style instruction booklet. They're really high quality now. Every single booklet I've seen in the last couple of years really just kind of feels like high quality by comparison, and it's just really easy instructions. Nothing difficult to follow. You do sometimes have vehicles, especially that have just... Some of their builds are just wild. The Contemptor Dreadnought in Horus Heresy. It was not fun to build. There was a lot of parts. And even though it's nice, it does get frustrating having to deal with that many little pieces. So, oh, and one more thing. Just like the heavy weapons, this is something they do now if you're a new player, or you just haven't bought anything new in a while. They do give you the basic stats. They've been doing that since at least 8th edition. But I like this. This is new to me, at least. They show you a picture of a gun with just a number, and then they tell you what it does. As a returning player, I've only started just getting back into 9th edition. I'm still not sold on it. I'm hoping 10th edition makes even more changes, but coming back to this, I know my weapons for the most part, but sometimes, you know, there are new weapons. I think this is called a castigator, Gatling gun or something like that. I would just call it the Mini Punisher, but whatever. I know what it does now. It's right there. Yes, I know that's a heavy bolter. I know that's probably an autocannon. And I know most of these, but, you know, you get down to the new big guns. Knowing that 7 and 9, those are what they do, it's really nice. Just to have it right there and not have to worry about it. I think for new players, that's a really nice addition to how they're laying out these books. So, tank. It's got 3 sprues, and you also get a really nice, I like this transfer sheet a lot. There's a lot of color to it. This one here, unlike the Cadian heavy weapons, and I assume the Cadian infantry are going to be the same thing, you get all kinds of different regiments. For some reason, the Tanith even have some tanks. I don't know when that happened, but Tanith, they got tanks now. That's nice. And all kinds of other, you know, regiments, and they got names. They got unit and vehicle markings. All kinds of great stuff on here. This is a super cool transfer sheet. I really like this one a lot. So, I'm going to get this one out of the way because this is the most basic of the... I'm going to move all this stuff out of the way. Most basic sprue. It is a couple of hull pieces, or I guess side hull, and a whole bunch of tracks. These are nice big chunky tracks. Very reminiscent of, like, I'd say Land Raider sized. These things are blessedly attached, unlike the old Lehman Russ. What we call the running wheels or something like that. And some little bits and pieces for the crew. Just in general, a very nice and tidy sprue. There's all kinds of stuff on here, but, like, you know, this is a sprue. There's going to be basically nothing left over other than some crew pieces. And that's always nice. I do hate it when every single sprue is just covered in leftovers. Just because it means that it's a lot more difficult for me to go through it at the end and clip everything off. If I can get rid of everything in one go, that is the way to do it. Just let me clip off a whole sprue at a time, and if there's going to be leftover pieces, try to make that be the final sprue or two, so that, you know, those are the oddball sprues. Here, this is the other big one. This is the other half of the tracks. And a whole bunch of things, like these are track guards, I can already tell. These here, this is parts. Well, this is the bottom, you know, what they give you. This, I assume, is some sort of back panel. It looks like that's going to be where there's some, like, exhaust stuff going on. I could be wrong, but there's a little door, so I assume that's some sort of, like, access point. And yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff here. I think this is where you see a big chunk of the sponson pieces. There's a few weapons scattered throughout here, stowage and, like, equipment. Yeah, right there. There's stowage. Again, looks like most of this is going to disappear in the build. Very little will be left over other than the weapons and whatnot that you choose not to use. And for the most part, looking at this stuff, a little bit of magnet work, and actually this one here, not even magnet work. This thing will pop in and out for the most part. Yeah, most of this is going to go away. The only thing you might not use is going to be all this stowage. And even then, it's not that I'm not going to use it. It's just going to be that I'm going to definitely paint stuff like that separately so that I can paint the actual tank a lot faster. I'd much rather just glue or, tack that kind of stuff onto a piece of plastic, spray it, paint it there, and then glue it onto the tank afterwards, instead of trying to like spray camo patterns onto a tank with this stuff there and then have to go back and paint over it and maybe risk, messing up my camo. So definitely, again, mostly going to be a used up sprue. The third one, this is where you get your actual like main tank hull by the looks of it. At least the top of it. I guess we already saw the bottom, so I guess really the sprue itself is more focused on the turret. Now that I look at it, yeah, it's mostly the turret. There's actually just a little bit of the tank body here. So very nice stuff here. That's going to be the bottom of the tank. That's going to be where your mini demolisher, mini punisher goes. It's got this like really nice. I think a long time back when this was first announced, I sort of said it looked like an M26 Pershing's. It definitely has a bit of an American tank turret look to it. I'm not super up on tanks. I know like the main ones. I know Shermans and different Panzer tanks and stuff. So if this looks more like a different one, I did also think it might look a bit like a Cromwell. That's like the only real British tank I know. But somebody I'm sure can correct me on which tank this really looks like, because I'm obviously wrong. I'm sure somebody's going to tell me that, but that's okay. That is the internet for you. But I'm also not going to be upset either, so I don't think I'm going to be bitter about it. I'm definitely never, 100% sure on these things. But yeah, again, it's a nice sprue. Their sprues today, for the most part, are really good. You do get the odd sprue. Like, I do not like the Cadian sprue 100%. It's a little bit, at times, confusing. But it's mostly good. But then I look at something like, the Orc Commandos in Kill Team. That sprue killed me. The sprues there, they were just all over the place. So it's nice to see that even a couple of years later, there's been some major changes to the way they're laying it out. This just seems a lot simpler. And I feel like as I go through the instructions, it's all going to, kind of just be easy and fast. And that's what I want. When I think back to the old Leman Russ, the old Chimeras, I mostly remember them fondly, except for putting the tracks together, because there was so many fiddly little stupid parts to put that thing together. It was over-designed. It made no sense. At the time, it still makes no sense. But this here, it's got a lot more detail, a lot more things going on, and yet it still feels like this is a much simpler kit than the older tanks, where they just had like nonsense in between holding it together instead of molded parts right on the hull and the tracks itself. So that's really nice to see. Their tanks have been getting better for years and years, though, but this here looks like... well, we'll see how it goes once I build it, but right now this is feeling like a gold standard tank. Like, this is what you want your tank sprues to look like. You want it to be quick and simple, and everything's easy to find. I really do think this is that kind of tank. And again, I'm looking forward to building it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it does on the battlefield. I'm going to be playing a game of 9th edition this weekend, it looks like. Pretty small game. It's not going to be anything huge. I won't be able to get one of these into my list, because we're just doing 500 points or 700 points or something, just to get started. But, it'll build back up. And it'll be something this will be a treat to get it out there. It's also going to, kind of motivate me to get my airbrush out again. I have probably a half dozen vehicles I want to add to my Cadian 122nd. And they've been building up slowly, the ones I wanted to add. And this will be the push I think I needed to get my airbrush out and just spray you know, 6 or 8 vehicles at once and just have them all ready at one go, because I hate taking my airbrush out. It's a pain in the butt. But doing like the last time I used it, I did like 6 or 7 tanks or something at once, and it was fine. This is going to be the same thing. I'm just going to do a whole bunch of tanks, and this is going to be the one I think that gets me doing it for sure. Anyways, now I'm just rambling like I always do at the end of my videos, and I don't want to add 4 more minutes of me talking about how I don't like airbrushing that much, even though it's great. So anyways, thanks very much for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, you can leave them down below. And as always, have yourselves a great day.